Thanks for coming tonight, everybody, to the workshop with Christine Wilson on immune support through yoga. We're going to be learning tonight about how yoga can help to support the immune system. Christine does our Friday yoga classes with us through Zoom, and she is a certified yoga therapist. So, this is the second workshop in our Power of Yoga series we'll be doing this year with Christine. So thanks for being here. Take it away, Christine.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what I know about a practice that has been very powerful for me. We did have some computer issues, or I should say, I had some computer issues at the beginning, and it literally was a reset and check the cables kind of thing, which is really basic, right? And that's kind of what yoga can do for us. Yoga is so much more than just the physical postures that we typically think of, especially in our Western culture. It's more, it does include the posture, certainly, but it is also about the meditation, the mindfulness portion of it. It's about the philosophy of it, how we can learn to be kind to ourselves and reconnect to ourselves, or maybe connect to ourselves for the first time ever. It is about how we can use our breathing as a very powerful tool to reset our nervous systems, as well as, like tonight, we're going to talk about resetting our immune systems. And those two systems work together in a way that integrates with the whole entire rest of your physical body. All 37 trillion cells of our body are so intricately connected that other systems of the body are going to be mentioned throughout this presentation tonight. So thank you once again for being here. I have been practicing yoga for a number of years, and I am a certified yoga therapist through the International Association of Yoga Therapists. And you can check out my website online, and the last slide will include my contact information if you want any more information and access to free yoga videos. But today we'll be talking about the how yoga can help us even beyond those physical postures. So I'm going to go ahead and share a PowerPoint with you. There's a lot of information on the PowerPoint, and I could have included lots and lots and lots more. But there's not going to be a test. You don't have to remember anything. I will email everything to Amy after the presentation, so you'll have full access. And Amy's also recording this video, so I'm sure she'll share it with you. And we'll also post it to our free YouTube channel so that it's available for as many people who might be able to benefit from it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. First, you're going to see my Zoom login screen, and then my PowerPoint will pop up. All right. So everyone should be seeing my screen by now, immune system support through yoga. And tonight we'll start by inviting presence, and I will let you know what that means in a second here. And then we'll talk about the immune system and its really close companion, the lymphatic system. And then we'll do a short practice together, and I'll leave time for questions. And since I did have some uh, technical issues at the beginning of this presentation, I am more than happy to stay on after if there are questions that would benefit from that. So first of all, we'll invite presence. And what that means in yoga and when I was first introduced to it in yoga, I had signed up for it at my state job. I work for the state of Oregon here. And I was practicing twice a week in the basement, and I paid for 3 months in advance. Otherwise, I probably would have stopped doing it after the first couple of weeks because I felt like I had too much to do. I was too busy. It was a waste of time. I wasn't really burning any calories, which was very important to me at the time. And still to some, well, I don't really care about that very much anymore, honestly. I have a much better relationship with my body, shall we say. But I wouldn't have continued doing it had I not paid in advance for it. But I did continue doing it. And I realized after, I don't know, the fifth, sixth, seventh week in, that I was on my mat and that I was really noticing my breath and feeling into my body, and that I was not worried about what was going to happen later that afternoon. I wasn't ruminating about a conversation I'd had earlier in the day. I wasn't all up in my head, which is what I finally, for the first time, noticed I tended to spend most of my time. So let's just invite presence to really be in your body, to really take a moment to greet yourself, to be present for yourself, to get out of your head, give your brain a reset, just like we do to our computers. We're going to reset our brains, our nervous systems, and our breath. So just sit up as nice and tall as you feel comfortable. And if you're laying down, that's absolutely fine too. And just notice the parts of yourself that are touching the ground. So if you're sitting in a chair, that might be the bottoms of your feet. That might be the backs of your thighs, your sit bones. You might notice some support along your spine. And if you like to close your eyes here, if you feel comfortable doing that, please go ahead and do that, or maybe just soften your gaze. If you're lying on your back, just feel the support that's underneath you. Just really focus your attention on how it feels to have these parts of your body supported here. And then just bring your awareness now to the tip of your nose. Notice how it feels at the ends of your nostrils to breathe in and to breathe out. Just a couple more breaths like that there. And with your next in breath, you might deepen your breath a little, invite it a little deeper into your belly. And as you inhale that breath, you might welcome it in just like you're welcoming yourself back into your body right now. Inhale, welcome back, welcome home. There you are. And then exhale, relax your shoulders, soften your jaw. And when you're ready, you might blink open your eyes and invite yourself to be present. And so that's yoga right there. That's bringing your mind and your body and your breath to unity, really showing up for yourself. And we'll go ahead and move along here. So this slide is pretty simple, and it seems like kind of common sense, common knowledge at this point. We all need to get good sleep. We need to drink plenty of water. We need to exercise. Getting outside is really good for us. Healthy food. Elimination maybe is not as apparent in our modern culture. Elimination can be like the picture shows, laughing and crying. as well as going to the bathroom. It can be vomiting. It can be letting go of things that don't serve you, giving things up. At one point, I decided not drinking any longer was not serving me. So elimination can mean a lot of things. And then right brain is supporting your creative brain, your happy place. It's painting or music, yes, but it also might be drawing, it might be crocheting, it might be sewing, it might be writing, it could be anything like that. But we do need and we benefit from these right brain activities because, again, that takes us out of our thinking mind and back into our bodies. And when we're in our bodies, we're more connected to our authentic selves. We're showing ourselves nourishment, and we are better able to tap into our creativity, which is wonderful for just living in our modern lives. So all of these things as a daily practice support your immune system. When you're when you have a good balance of practices that support these things on the body dashboard, you widen your window of tolerance whenever the proverbial shit hits the fan. You, pardon my French, but that when that happens and you are fortified with all of these things that nourish you, that deep rest, healthy food and drink, healthy creativity, getting your heart rate up, getting air on your skin, getting outside when you're able, you are better able to withstand when things like cancer or even the flu or COVID or anything like that hit you. You have a good baseline from which to meet these challenges. Uh, whoops, there we go. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I did it again, Amy.
Oh, what happened? But we can see
Oh,
the slide.
that's all right.
Okay.
That's all right. Okay,
There
I
we-
think I've got it now.
Yep.
Okay. So this is just the immune system on the one side, the lymphatic system on the other side. Might be small to read on your screen, but like I said, we'll get it emailed to you if you're interested. But this picture shows how interconnected these two systems are. So the immune system includes all of our lymph nodes. Many of you probably are familiar with lymph nodes, may have had lymph nodes removed from the armpits. Others have had lymph nodes removed from the abdomen or from the groin, depending on where cancers show up. And these lymph nodes live in the pits of our body. So the physical practice of yoga is really beneficial right there because we're opening and closing all the pits of the body. So we're kind of massaging those lymph nodes. We're helping that filtration that happens at the lymph nodes to be supported and to kind of move along. Those nodes are where our lymphatic fluid comes to get filtered out of all the cellular debris, the toxins from our body that accumulate during the day. It brings it back down to our heart center where our thymus gland is. And then that is where it gets refilled with all these wonderful T cells, these immune cells that then get redistributed throughout our body. So unlike the circulatory system, where we have a heart to pump the blood throughout our body, the lymphatic system does not have a pump. The only way that that lymph moves in a healthy way is through the movement of the tissues of our bodies. And I don't know about you, but I've had a pretty sedentary lifestyle in as much as, yes, I do gardening and yes, I walk every day. And of course, I practice yoga. But for the majority of my regular job throughout my life has been sitting at a computer. And when we do that, we kind of let that lymphatic fluid begins to accumulate in the belly, in the abdomen, in the pits of the body. It gets sluggish. It doesn't move in a healthy way. There's no good flow. So that is one of the best reasons for doing yoga. The lymphatic system is just underneath the skin. Those little lymphatic passageways along the arms and the legs run through the fascia. And if you're not familiar with the fascia, it is like a membrane that is underneath your skin that is on top of the muscle and the fat. And if you've ever skinned a chicken breast, you've seen that membrane that is under the skin and on top of the meat. And you usually just pull that off and discard it. Well, we have that same sort of membrane, and it can get kind of gunked up, it's like if we have an injury, there could be a scar there, so that membrane can get really tight. And that is also where those lymphatic passageways are. So if you even just lay a nickel on your skin, you're probably touching a lymphatic passageway. So they're not very deep. So things like self-massage can also be beneficial for our lymphatic system. And we'll talk more about that really fun practice later on. So these two systems overlap and complement each other. And again, you'll get to have this in your presentation email later on. So moving on to the immune system. Like I said, when we practice the body dashboard, when we have healthy daily habits that nourish ourselves, we open our window of tolerance. We are able to withstand more challenge when it comes our way because we have that healthy baseline. But it's not like a muscle that we can just strengthen. Like by exercising it over and over again. It is also not something that we can just take a bunch of vitamin C or something like that to be able to go, oh, it's flu season. I'm just going to take vitamin C and that'll strengthen my immune system. Well, what you don't use, you secrete out of your elimination anyway. But we can support it by having that healthy baseline. Unfortunately, it can be suppressed by things like stress or chemotherapy and other stressors. The cells, tissues, and organs work together to protect your body from the bacteria and the toxins, and they help to support that wound healing. So again, that's that T cell that goes throughout the lymphatic fluid throughout your body that supports that wound healing. We have two different kinds of immunity. We've got the innate immunity, that's like our first line defense, our skin, our nasal passages. Again, yoga here is very focused on nasal breathing because we do have that built-in filtration system at the nose. The air gets not only filtered, but it also gets the humidified and either warmed or cooled so that our body can accept it better. And it also is kind of the part of our system that recognizes invaders. Adaptive immunity is when they do have invaders like the flu or the cold, and we start to adapt to that by building our own antibodies. And that is exactly what vaccines are meant to do. And that is to support our adaptive immunity. Here is a little bit of something that we're going to expose you to so you can create the antibodies to be able to fight it. So that's our immune system in a nutshell. Stress, like I said, can really suppress that immune system. And when the stress response is activated too much of the time, we begin to get exhausted from it. We begin to get overwhelmed and we can no longer meet those responses. We're not meant to be in stress, in fight or flight for extended periods of time. That system is wonderful. It protects us, but it is designed to meet short-term stress, real threats to our safety. And we have this chronic day-to-day stress in our culture that we have now. So we secrete the adrenaline when we have that really immediate thing, like when you're driving your car and suddenly a kid pulls out in front of you on your bike, you feel that rush into your hands. Maybe you feel a clenching in your belly. You can feel that adrenaline secrete, and then it backs off. And then also at that same time, cortisol is secreted, and that is to to keep you a little bit on guard. So there's been a threat, it's dissipated now, but we still don't want to totally let our guard down. And many of us live in that space almost 24/7, where we're not really letting our guard down. And too much of that cortisol can stimulate our appetite because in our biological magnificence, we're designed to be ready to meet that threat. So what helps us to be able to run, to be able to fight? Strong muscles, lots of blood sugar so that we have lots of energy. So of course our appetite is going to be stimulated. We're designed to meet those threats. And also cortisol dampens the immune cell function, and it can begin to make you less able to meet those threats, making you susceptible to infection and slowing the rate of your healing. So support ways we can support this is by doing things that intentionally bring healthy stress, because not all stress is bad. Some stress is really good, right? When we're training for a marathon or something like that, we want to practice, we want to run, we want to get a little bit stronger, a little bit more limber. Um, we that way we can master it, we can meet that stress. So yoga is a wonderful way to practice doing that. We can practice doing things that are stressors that we choose to do in a controlled and safe environment, and then we can recover from those stresses, and we can feel in our bodies what it feels like to be stressed, maybe even a little anxious, feel a little bit off balance, and then to come back into your body, to breathe deeply and recover. That's what's known as heart rate variability. Maybe you might have heard of that, but it's the ability for your nervous system recover after we have those stressors, like the kid riding out in front of us on a bike, which is, our modern day version of what we were originally designed to do, which is, meet the threat of a bear or saber-toothed tiger or something out in the wild. We have that capacity within us. Again, we want to curb chronic stress or increase our window of tolerance. So just like we can increase the window of tolerance of our immune system, we can also do the same thing with our nervous systems. And our nervous systems are the things that secrete the hormones that suppress the immune system. So it's really important to make sure that our window of tolerance for the immune system, for the nervous system, is as wide as possible too. Support practices, just like the body dashboard, those basic needs that we have, our physical need to have nourishment, to be fed, to be sheltered, to be connected. That also helps the window of tolerance for our nervous system so that we're not secreting those stress hormones all the time. Again, practice physical practice, asanas in the yoga postures to move the tissues of the body, nose breathing to filter the air, pranayama, which is breathing practices. So that's beyond nose breathing. Those are things like slowing down the breath intentionally, doing belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, balanced breathing. Let's see. And then not only that, but when you do that nose breathing, it increases the nitric oxide in our blood, which helps to get your oxygen better distributed and absorbed throughout your body. And we do create that nitric oxide naturally in our bodies. And if you're interested in that, you can Google to find out more. And then the lymphatic system, like I said, that is that physical symptom of passageways that runs from our fingertips down to our toes. It gets filtered at all the pits of our body. We can, and the lymphatic system, oddly enough, is 40% of the fluid in our body. So when we think of our bodies, they are approximately 70% fluid. So more than half of that is actually this lymphatic fluid that has no pump to move it around our body. It carries the immune cells, it kills rogue cancer cells, as well as dispose of toxic waste. Movement of the diaphragm, doing those pranayama or breathing practices can help assist in getting that venous blood back up to the heart so that it can be filtered and redistributed throughout our bodies and get back to the thymus gland. Let's see. And then again, especially with people who have had lymph nodes removed, lymphedema is very common. That's that swelling due of the lymphatic vessels. A lot of times you'll notice swelling in your hands and feet, or maybe numbness or tingling. So yoga can help to kind of redistribute how that lymphatic fluid is flowing. So you can learn by stretching and lengthening those lymphatic vessels that have probably been shortened. And yoga is just a little bit at a time. So a lot of times you might see people doing yoga postures on videos or the covers of magazines, and their, arms are straight up in the air and they're standing on one leg, and you're like, forget it, man, I'm never doing that. But yoga can just be sitting up tall and breathing intentionally and drawing your diaphragm up and in to support your spine. And that also, when you draw that diaphragm up and in, you're kind of stimulating the solar plexus, which is a big gathering of nerves right there at your center. And you're also supporting the blood and the lymphatic flow. Let's see here. And lymphedema symptoms. And you probably, if you have any of these symptoms, definitely talk to your doctor about what you might be experiencing. But the thing about the symptoms, and if you have lymphedema, you're probably aware of how you can experience, like I said, the numbness, the weakness, the shortening of, and the lessening maybe of the capacity to reach. Um, Yoga helps us to tune into our bodies in a way that if you're in your thinking mind a lot, you might not really practice much. And I know sometimes until I am on my mat, that's probably the first intentional breath I have had all day, is when I sit down on my mat and I take a breath. Now, I don't know how many of you, and I didn't think to ask, but when we did our finding presence practice together at the beginning, when you felt your feet on the ground, when you noticed your breath at your nostrils, was that maybe the first time you noticed your breath or noticed your feet on the ground all day? I mean, really? Yeah. We don't really pay that close of attention to ourselves. I have known people who have had issues and actually have been one of those people with different physical issues that you just kind of ignore or not take very seriously. And one of the quotes that I always remember hearing is yoga helps you to listen to the whispers of your body so that you don't later have to listen to the screams. And sometimes, no matter what you do, there's going to be screams, obviously. Sometimes you just simply cannot control that. But the power of being able to notice, my limbs, my arm feels a little heavy today. Something that might go completely under your radar if you really weren't in tune with your body. Or, wow, my ankle looks a little swollen this morning. Maybe I'm going to keep an eye on that. Or maybe, even better, I'm going to sit down and put my feet up and put some ice on it and message my doctor. Just to be on the safe side, I'll just be proactive as soon as I notice something like that, or whatever it might be for you. And it may not be anything about lymphedema. It could be just any kind of thing that you might notice, a little bit of shortness or of breath, or a stitch in your side that maybe hasn't been going away. Yoga helps us to tune into ourselves. We spend so much time in our head and so much time taking care of other people and other issues that we tend to put ourselves on the back burner. And yoga helps you to reconnect to yourself in a way that can be very powerful and really healthy in a number of ways. Again, these slides will be emailed to you, so I'm not going to read them word for word, but I do want to make sure to get to the support practices, that gentle stretching. Maybe when you start your yoga practice, all you do is sit up nice and tall and intentionally breathe. That's yoga. And maybe the next time you start, you just begin to lift your hands to your heart and then put them back down. Or maybe you start to open your arms up wide and bring them back to center. And maybe the first time you practice yoga, you're invited to lift your arms up towards your ears. And maybe some people will come up to shoulder height. Maybe some people will come all the way up alongside the ears. Maybe your reach will be down here and your hands will be pointed down at the ground. But it's your practice. It's not anything like everybody has to do the same thing at the same time in the same way. This is your opportunity to reconnect with yourself and what you really need to really, kind of be your own cheerleader, to be your own guide, to really listen to what you need. Um, so we've got upper extremity asanas. That's doing the arms, the shoulders, support practices for your neck, and we'll do a little physical practice here towards the end. Lower extremity asanas. So when we do our Friday noon classes, I usually practice that either at least with and often from a chair, because like I said, many of us find ourselves in chairs a lot of the time. Sometimes maybe you're tired or you don't have time to get away from your desk. Maybe you have had a recent surgery and you're unsteady on your feet. Wonderful thing about yoga, what if you sprain your ankle? Yes, you can still do your yoga from your chair. You can still do the deep breathing. You can still do things that support the movement of the tissues of your body. We can do those lower extremity practices even from the chair, or we can stand and use the chair for balance, which is really great when you're starting a yoga practice. And that is one of the things that things like weightlifting don't really take into account, is creating and cultivating balance, which is really important as we get older, no matter what our health level is. And then, like I said, the breathing practices, and then self-massage. That's Abhyanga. You may have heard it called lymphatic massage. You might have even been told to practice that and maybe not really have an idea of what that looks like. So we'll make sure to talk about that a little bit more here too. Here we go, talking about the lymphatic massage. So, like I said, the lymph, that lymphatic passageway, is in the fascia of the body, right underneath the skin. So, you can literally rub lotion on your hands, just nice and gentle, rubbing all your fingers, getting into the joints. Right there, all you're doing is getting synovial fluid in your joints of your knuckles and moving the lymphatic fluid that has been collecting down in your arms, your lower arms, and your hands all day, because we're vertical creatures most of the time. So it kind of pools down in there. So just doing that can be really beneficial. The wonderful thing about yoga is it brings a mindfulness component to it. So instead of washing your hands and then getting your lotion and just kind of rubbing it in and moving along your way, you might take a moment to really get present in your body, to really notice what it feels like to be touching your fingers, to notice how your index finger feels and how your middle finger feels and your ring finger, and to continue on to all your fingers and your thumbs and feel the palms of your hands. And just take a moment to show yourself a little bit of tenderness. It doesn't have to take forever, and it doesn't have to be every time. But just every time you can bring a little extra intention, a little more connection to yourself, a little more compassion to yourself, is time well spent. It's time that you're building that window of tolerance. You're increasing that tolerance. You may have also heard of, before I get to any of that, avoid if you've just eaten a big meal, you're in great physical discomfort, you have any kind of a fever, high blood pressure would probably be another thing you might want to stay away from, because there may be some bending over involved in a full lymphatic massage during pregnancy or menstruation. And of course, check with your doctor if you're at all concerned about it. Like I said, you can do self massage with hand lotion, just doing your hands, or maybe you use moisturizer throughout your body, or you might like dry brushing if you're into that. All of those things are great for lymphatic massage. And if you're doing a full lymphatic massage practice, you start at your feet, you work your way up your legs, and then you do your hands, and you work your way up your arms, and then you do your abdomen and as much of your hips and your backs as you can reach. And then you come up across your breasts and into your chest. And actually, you probably start at the top of your head and your face and then do what I just said from the feet and then the hands up. Everything towards the heart, basically, is what we want to do. We want to move all that lymphatic fluid up towards the heart. So you could make this as formal as getting a fancy massage oil. You could warm it up. You could lay down a towel on your bathroom floor. You could sit down and just be really take your time to massage every single inch of your skin. And maybe you don't do that every day or even once a week. Maybe you do it a couple times a year, just as a really nice way to take care of yourself. And it is taking care of yourself because it's nourishing your skin, which can be great if you've got dry skin. It's nourishing your joints, your lymphatic fluid. And there's all different kinds of oils that you can use, whatever you like. But if you don't have the time for that, if you don't want to take the time for that, if you can just bring an intentional lotioning of the hands, or maybe you use dry brushing instead of the oils, and you do the same motion with the dry brush as you would the oils, going towards the heart from the extremities, getting all that lymphatic fluid back towards the thymus. You could also do tapping. So instead of brushing or massaging, you could take like, and I'll just take, well, I'm not going to take my glasses off because that'll mess with the headphones. So no more technical issues. I'll just do like, you could take your fingers and just tap right across the top of your forehead. And you could maybe come down to your eyebrows and just gently tap. And then you might take your two first fingers and just gently press over the eyes at the brow where the eyebrows meet, and just maybe bow your head forward a little to rest on your outstretched fingers. And then you could release that and then maybe close your fingers. And then if you're doing the full lymphatic massage, again, starting at your ankles, but then once you like at your ankles, you would do similarly as just tapping on your skin here, very gently, very lightly. Like I said, it's not very deep. You might just, massage your hands together and then turn the arm in and out, rotate back and forth, just tapping that lymphatic fluid up towards your lymph nodes. And you would do the same thing if you were doing oil, just massaging towards the lymph nodes, towards the heart, up the arms, up the legs, and same thing with dry brushing. So that's how you would want to do that. And again, you can do that every single day. You can use any one of these kinds of practices that will fit into your life. You might even do it in the shower. Maybe you have body oil that you use in the shower, or maybe you exfoliate in the shower, but it's all the same kind of thing. But the really strong thing that I encourage the most is no matter how you do it or how much you do it, that you do it with an intention to be connected to yourself, to pay attention to yourself, to appreciate and be grateful for yourself. Now, as I mentioned, I've had a difficult relationship with my body. I think a lot of us have had, whether we have health issues, chronic or acute, whether we have height issues or weight issues or nose issues or whatever issue we have with our bodies. Many of us have a kind of complicated relationship at best, and really bringing some love and some gentleness and some true acceptance. Really marveling this information here, the way the nervous system, the lymphatic system, the immune system all work together along with our heart system and our respiratory system, our muscular system, skeletal system. I mean, it's fascinating to me how beautifully put together our bodies are, and how wonderfully different they all are, and how wonderfully different we all are. And I spent most of the first half of my life trying to fit in to be like everybody else. And yoga has offered me the opportunity to tune into myself and be who I really am. And that is one of the best powers, I think, of yoga. And so, just moving on to support practices, meditation is a big part of yoga. As a matter of fact, yoga started as simply a meditation practice. The reason that the yoga physical postures were even brought to bear was because the Buddhist monks were practicing this meditation, this sitting still and not talking, and they were trying to teach these young boys. Of course, girls were not permitted at the time to be a part of this, but they were trying to teach these young 10, 11-year-old boys to sit quietly for hours at a time. And when that proved to be quite challenging, they would have them move through these yoga postures to basically tire them out before the meditation practice. So that was what the physical postures were created. And later on, it became apparent how the breathing that was tied into that, and the other kinds of movements, and how the movements affected the body, like moving the lymphatic flow and supporting the hormonal system, the endocrine system. That was just icing on the cake. So meditation is really that connection, that mindfulness portion I was talking about. And then singing and humming, or in yoga, you might hear it as chanting or mantra. Doing that vocalization stimulates the vagal nerve right here at the base of the throat. And that is the major nerve that runs from our brains all the way down through our throats and to every other organ in our body. It is literally that gut-brain connection. And most of the communication from that through that nerve comes from the gut to the brain. So it's that is like our first notice to us that something's going on in our bodies is when we start to have digestive issues, when we start to have constipation or diarrhea, or we're not or a lot of heartburn or anything like that, that is often our gut literally telling us, hey, something is wrong here. And more often than not, that first thing that we're listening to, those whispers, are telling us, you are doing too much. You are too stressed out. We either need to alleviate that stress or we need to figure out a healthier way to deal with it if that's not possible. But the singing, the humming support that nerve so that you can hear those messages from your gut. And then bilateral movements, another thing in yoga where we're maybe doing one thing on one side and the opposite on the other side. So we might press our hands together and then hook the fingers and pull them apart and then press them together again. And then this time bring the front hand to the back. So now you kind of have to think about it. So first you've got the right hand on the front, and you hook them and pull and then press the palms together and then the right hand on the back. And it just feels a little bit awkward here. That's a bilateral movement that supports your brain and it also supports your neuroplasticity and it also supports that vagal tone so that you can tune into those gut feelings. And then I always like to include this quote, seeing unhealthy patterns in your family and deciding that those patterns end with you and will not be passed down to future generations is an extremely brave and powerful decision. And I think about this in terms of trauma a lot of times, whether that's childhood trauma or the trauma of having had a devastating illness or losing somebody that you love. We have these patterns that we practice over and over again, generation to generation. Now, I would blame my body issues on my mother because I certainly could, but I'd also have to blame them on her mother, and then I'd have to blame them on her mother, and then I'd have to blame just culture in general. I mean, it's not anything that any one person did, but just because they did do that doesn't mean that we have to do that. And one of the things that we do repeat is this incessant need to prove ourselves worthy, to be perfect, to take care of everyone else at the expense of taking care of ourselves. And it has become some kind of badge of honor to say, oh, I didn't get much sleep last night. I'm just so busy. Or I checked off this off my box and that off my box and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't even get to go to my kids' recital or whatever the thing might be. Taking care of ourselves, doing things like self massage, those are the rebel moves to make these days, you know? So I encourage you to say, I'm going to model healthy behavior for my daughter, for my daughter's daughter, for my sons, for my brothers, whoever you have in your life. We often want to take care of other people, but when we do that too much at the detriment of taking care of ourselves, we not only deplete ourselves, but we set a really bad example for them too. So you're not necessarily doing them any favors by not taking care of you first. So I just would love to see people begin to normalize this kind of self-care. And then we've got a practice we can do together. So I talked about how humming and singing stimulate the vagal tone. There's a number of different practices in yoga that include humming. So we'll practice that together. We'll practice grounding the body, which is like we did at the beginning, inviting presence when we felt where we're supported in our chair, our feet on the ground. We'll do a little more lymphatic massage and movement. And then we'll close with a little self-compassion meditation. So let's go ahead and maybe you want to go ahead and stand up for a moment. Maybe you want to scoot forward to the front of your chair. You might like to just release your hands and shake your arms out a little bit, maybe shake your shoulders a little bit. If you're in a place where you can stand up and stretch, stand up and stretch. If you want to stay seated, you could stretch one leg out to one side and then the other leg out to the other side, and just feel into your body. Feel, what do you want? Do you want to squeeze your shoulder blades together? Just another couple of stretches. Think of yourself as very cat-like. Feel what your body's feeling. Just moving your arms and legs as much as feels good to you. And then we'll come back to that seat. Or maybe you would like to stand. You can certainly do that. Or, of course, you can be laying down too. But whatever posture you're in, just maybe close your eyes to come back into your body, to invite yourself down out of your thinking mind and back into your body. And sometimes closing your eyes can really help you to go inward, to really tune into the sensations you're feeling right now. And we'll go ahead and bring one hand and then the other over the chest, over the heart, over the thymus gland, so that your palm is in contact with your chest, and then your second hand is covering your first hand. Beautiful. And you might be able to feel the beating of your heart underneath your palm. Maybe not. Just tuning in really closely to notice that subtle beating. And as you're here, relax your jaw, relax your shoulders. And we're going to do Brahmari breath. It's a humming breath. So we'll stimulate the thymus gland under the hands, as well as the thyroid gland at the base of the throat. And when you practice this breath, you'll inhale through the nose and you'll exhale with your lips gently pressed together with a humming sound like hmm, like a bee breath. And as you do that exhale, just let it be as long as feels good to you. And just look for the vibration underneath your hands. And you might notice the vibration spread into your chest or maybe other places in your body. So we'll do that together here 3 times. So let's just take one full breath to prepare an inhale and an exhale. And then inhale through the nose, press the lips together and hum. Mm. Just come back to your regular breath. Let the vibrations fade away. Notice the beating of your heart. And again, we'll inhale through the nose and hum. Mm. Let the silence after the hum be as much a part of your practice. And one final time, we'll do that together. Really look for the most subtle sensations. Inhale through the nose. Mm. Whenever you're ready, you can release your hands, rest your palms on your lap or at your sides, and just notice what you notice. Just tune in, feel any sense of energy, any sense of aliveness. And then noticing now your palms resting against your body. Just feeling your pinky fingers and your ring fingers, feeling your middle fingers, noticing your index fingers touching your body, noticing your thumbs. Notice the palms of your hands. And you might notice a sense of coolness if your hands are cold or maybe warmth. Just really grounding yourself by feeling your body. One more full breath here. And then let's bring the hands together in front of the heart, this time palm to palm, like prayer position. And we'll just begin to rub those hands together. Maybe you do notice now that your hands are nice and warm already, or maybe they're cool. Either way, they're going to get a little bit warmer. And you might just think to yourself about how that lymphatic fluid has been gathering in your fingers all day and you're helping to warm it up. Maybe you point your fingers up towards the sky and it begins to flow down towards your elbows. You might even lift your hands a little higher and start to feel movement in your shoulders. Keep your chin tucked gently to keep your neck long. And then as high as feels good to you, you might open up your arms right here and just feel the palms of your hands. Just notice any sense of tingling or energy. And then begin to close your fingers and open them. Close them and open. And you might extend your arms up a little higher, opening and closing the fingers, now moving that lymphatic fluid down towards the elbows, the inner elbows, the armpits, and back towards the heart and the thymus gland. And you can just keep your arms as high as you like. You can do this as long as you want. This might be a great thing to do at the end of a long day or when you first wake up in the morning. And then we'll just lower the arms back down and maybe roll your shoulders up and down and back a couple of times. And then turn your gaze from side to side. Just get a little movement in the neck. And you might make some little circles here with the nose in one direction. And then switch directions a couple of times. And then we'll take those fingertips like we did earlier, and we'll just take them right here to the top of the hairline where the forehead meets the hair. And you can just make some little taps, and you can use one or two or three fingers, whatever makes sense. And you can go back and forth there a couple times. And then maybe come to the temples. And then you could get like the upper cheekbones here. And then across the cheekbone, under the eye. This can be really helpful if you're prone to allergies as well to help open up the nasal passageways. And then down here at the jawbone, under the ear, just tapping down the jaw towards the chin. And then tuck the chin back, and we'll take those fingers underneath the collarbones and just tap back and forth under the collarbones. And if you notice any areas of tenderness, you might just take notice, offer a little compassion. And then we'll come right to the heart center, right to the thymus gland, and we can tap the fingers here. We can do both hands together, or maybe just one hand, or maybe alternate. Maybe if you're getting ready for a big talk or a meeting or a difficult conversation, you could close your fingers and do the humming and the tapping and the and then just let it go. And just notice what you notice. Notice any energy you feel flowing. Notice any sense of aliveness. Notice any sense of spaciousness or newness. And then again, feeling into your body, grounding by feeling the bottoms of your feet, your palms, your sit bones. I'm thinking about all those 37 trillion cells of your body and all the interconnected systems and how they all work together so beautifully. And that all they want is for us to be connected to them and to listen to them and to take care of them. And again, I invite you, if you like, to bring one hand and then the other to cover your heart. To offer yourself some gratitude for your journey, for everything you've been here through to get here to this present moment, to be with yourself. Offer your body gratitude for its capacity to heal, and offer your spirit gratitude for your willingness to turn towards even greater well-being. If you like, you can bring your palms together at your hands, and in the tradition of yoga, bow your chin towards your heart in respect and reverence for yourself, and in respect and reverence for those with whom you've shared your time this evening, and for anyone else you meet along the way. May you have peace in your thoughts, in your words, and in your hearts. Namaste. Thank you, everyone, so much for that practicing that short sequence with me. Um, I, if anyone has any questions, I would love to hear them and answer them to the best of my ability. Um, yeah, I turn it back over to you, Amy.
Thank you so much, Christine. That was wonderful and so informative as always. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording before questions tonight.
Excellent.